Okay, now we're ready to use seat board number 3 to trace the profile of the seat board onto seat boards 2 and 4. And yes, I know it's got this inclusion in it. If I end up making or finishing this chair, I probably will use some brown, almost black epoxy to fill that in. Sometimes you just have to celebrate the board, and that's what we'll do. So let me trace this off. Got everything lined up. And now, take the board to the bandsaw, and I'm going to tilt the table to 9 degrees. And I'm going to make a scooped cut first. And then that'll kind of pull a bunch of this material out here. And then I'll make a cut coming toward the front there that will kind of level it off. It ends up making a beautiful big smile seat. All right, so I placed the 2 seat boards together, and I found a common in and out point. When you're doing a left and a right, you've got to, on one board, saw in from one end, and the other board saw in from the opposite end. So I'll saw in either here or there and just scoop out a nice little bit of the seat. Now what we need to do is remove some of the stock in the front so that our seat flows from the front down into the seat bowl here towards seat bowl number 3. I'll show you how. What I've done now is I placed a line parallel to the top of the board from the end of this mark all the way across. In fact, I just held it using my finger as a fence and drew the line across. And all right, so what I want to be able to do is have that line up with my bandsaw blade. And so I have set the table at 3 degrees so that would be the case, that it would line up. And now I can make a cut. And I'm going to make a cut make a bandsaw cut that starts here and will end up coming out right there. That's what I'm going to be aiming for. So, yeah, let's get to it. And I'll use the other board to make that same mark, and on the other board, that's where I'll come in at instead of coming out. So here we go. On this board, I'm going to start my cut right there, and I'm going to move it toward the front. Remember, they are mirror images of each other. At least that's what we're hoping for. All right. So now let's take these back over to the bench. We'll put them with the other seat boards, and we'll see how we've done. We have a little work to do here still on seat boards 2 and 4. When we made that cut, it always makes a little ridge here. We want to smooth out that ridge down to this line, and we're going to do it with the grinder. We also need to work here and smooth that out. And so then we'll have a good line over here that we can use to trace seat board 5, and we'll have a nice flowing line there on the inside of seat board 4. Let's go to the grinder and we'll make it good. All right, I'm going to use the grinder and take care of this. That looks pretty good right there. And remember, this is going to be a template for the seat board right next to it. We want to make this really nice. And right here, I've got to improve on it a little bit. There's a high spot still right there. So I'm going to turn it around to the other side. And take care of it. You know, when I'm working with the grinder, I don't want to make a bunch of stabbing type cuts. What I want to do is I want to get my elbows in, and I want to make long, smooth strokes. And that way I can get smooth lines instead of jagged lines. So, all right. I can use seat board number 4 now to trace seat board number 5. Now, seat board number 5, we're going to use the grinder for the whole thing. And so I'm going to draw a little line between here and there, just as kind of a guide. And what I'm trying to do is almost the same thing as working around the pommel, but this has a nice little twist to it. And I'll show you how to do it. Now we're going to make a 45-degree flat down to this line. And we're going to continue up and over this S-curve. Down toward the front. Yep, if you mark it out, once you start, you know where you've been and you know where you're going. All right, so I will really try to move in that little twisted shape that I want to impart, because I want to work at an angle away from the seat bowl line down to this line right here. And so that will mean it'll have a kind of a twist or a curve to it. So I'm down to my line back here, and I've left a little ridge here. You notice the same thing as before. We'll get on top of this ridge, and we'll work this ridge out, kind of flatten it, in hopes of being able to connect this line and that line at an angle first. Now I want to make it slightly concave. I want to get rid of some of this flat and give it just a little bit of a sweeping profile down toward seat board number 4. So to do that, I'll do the same thing I did before. Use the shape of the pad and kind of stand it up. Start right down the middle there, and I'll be able to see where I am imparting that concavity as I work. Well, it's not a lot, but it's enough. So we have a little bit of concavity right there and along this surface, but it's got a twist. Come on, baby, let's do the twist. Yeah, come on, baby. It goes like this. Yeah. All right, we're going to glue this seat up using some Tight Bond 3. And again, try not to get too much glue, because sometimes that can be the problem that you have with the joint is you've got too much glue in it and it won't pull together. Good thing about Tight Bond 3 is it has good open time for this. And you're going to need the open time. All right, I'm checking all of my joints. They're pulling up very nicely. And I've got my red line back here. It's all in a row, so I know everything is in the right place. We don't want to over tighten, but I want to tighten it enough. And all right, that's the Big Smile seat. So now that the seat is glued up, we get to do something that is a lot of fun. In fact, I think most of it's fun. What we're going to do is we're going to smooth the bottom, the seat bowl all the way down to the bottom. Now, this little fault here is probably going to show itself some more. I'm going to act like it's not there, and then we're going to fill it with something. Probably some resin, kind of celebrate it a little bit, but we're just going to sand it so that this becomes the bottom right here. This is the seat bowl bottom, and we want everything to flow toward that seat bowl bottom. And one of the main tools to do this is the grinder. Now, these are almost impossible to get now. The RAS 115, but it's what I'm used to using. You can use a regular grinder and a donut-shaped carbide wheel, and you can do the same thing. I like this because it's what I've used the most, and it's got dust collection. It still doesn't get all the dust, but if you don't use something like this that has dust collection, I would say the best thing to do is go outside and do it. Do it in maybe the driveway or a back porch or out in the yard, but you've got to be able to get some electricity to that. So I'm just going to work most of my strokes down this way, away from the seat bowl line. I don't want to tear up my seat bowl line. I want to work up to it, and so I want to know where I have been and be able to see where I need to work. To do that, I need to be able to use I like to use a red pencil and mark these transitions, like seat board 1 here is a little higher than seat board 2, and Same thing over here with seat board 5 and seat board 4. Work those transitions and smooth it out good. We're going to start with this grinder and just watch. All right, a sculptor is going to use the sense of touch. I want to see, where is it high, where is it low, where is it not flowing in that S curve. So I've pretty well got this fourth of the seat smoothed out, just using the grinder there. So it'll be the same thing with the other side. Okay, now I want to work in this direction. I want to try to make this a nice curve from the pommel to the seat bowl line right here. And so I need to work these transitions down, mark all the low points, and let's see if we can work that curve. So I'll have to come away from here, come away from there. And just imagine if we had to use this to do all of it. That's why that bandsaw is such a valuable tool in excavating your seat. There are a couple of other tools that I'm going to show you that can help make this easy also. So I'll go get them and show them to you and show you how they work. I've got a number 3 sweep, 35 millimeter, that's the width here, gouge. And this is my favorite shop gouge, just general purpose. It's one that you would find if you need a gouge in your shop to do some pairing of plugs and things like that, or general purpose. This is really a great tool to have, and you can use it very nicely for when you need to cut in and make something a little more concave on the seat, or to cut in from the edge here. This is a great tool for that. And of course you have to hunt for the place where it makes the best cut. All right, so then there's the travisher. The travisher is really good for going cross grain it's going cross grain, and it's just kind of scooping it out. It's kind of taking the high spots out. Great tool for this. It's not a tool that you have to use, but I really like it because I like hand tools, and it's a little more of a traditional tool for carving out seat bowls. It's really just a gouge. It's got a sweep and everything, but it's somewhere between a gouge and a plane, because this is the sole that it rides on. Well, then you can use a scraper. It's kind of like you're going from the macro part of the carving more down to the micro part of the carving. And if you've got a high spot, or there's some spot that is hard to work, scraper can be just the perfect thing. So you're going to do that all over the chair bottom here. And I've shown you how to do this fourth over here. You would work the transitions on this side, and then I'll show you how to work the front here. We're going to cut some mortises back here in the back to accept that back splat. Now, in order to be able to cut them, we need to be able to make sure that we're not having the whole thing wobble like this. Now, there's a way to fix that. And it's pretty simple. The seat itself will sit flat on seat board number 3, but the others, of course, have that smile and kind of keep that from being the easiest thing to do. So I'm going to put some wedges here. I'm going to wedge it, just stick some wedges in so that right now it won't flop that way, won't flop this way. All right, that stabilizes it. Now, I'm going to pick this up, hopefully not move those wedges. I think this one moved just a little bit. Now, we're identifying where these wedges are going to go, and then we can use some double stick tape to put them down in the same place. And we've made a kind of a quick little fixture here. All right, so that's what I'm doing. Nothing like good old double stick tape. Okay. I don't know what we would do without double stick tape, blue tape, duct tape, which fixes everything. I mean, those things make it the life of a craftsman or a fixer or whatever so much easier. All right, put that there. Oh, I've got to take the other side off, which is the hardest part, is getting this other side to peel off without the whole piece coming up. I think I'm going to have to resort to getting a knife to get it up there. So let me go get my magic knife. We'll see if we can make it work. Now that I have my magic knife, I can just kind of reach under there, peel it off. All right, so I've got some little blocks here that I'm going to install just like this with some double stick tape so that my positioning will stay the same and it won't slide back and forth any. Just putting a piece on the bottom and sticking it in place. Then we'll need to do some layout work to get our mortises in the right place. All right. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. Okay. Now, let's take the seat to the bench. We've got our positioning device ready, and we'll lay out our mortises across here. It's going to be fun. Now, we need to lay out our mortises on the deck, the back of our seat. So, this is the center line, and on your half seat pattern here, you'll see that this is 1/4 inch, and you'll see these particular points there. Take this, and just like when you laid out the seat bowl, place this at the back of the seat bowl here, and make yourself 2 little dents that you can use so that you can use a gauge like this. Okay, now we've got it laid out in this direction. Now we need to find the endpoints. Now, using your pattern again, if I lay this out, okay, that gives me the spot where I need to make the corner of the mortise here. So, all I need is a square. And I'm using the back of the seat here as my reference point. You've got to keep those reference points as long as you can. They're very important. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that I get the same measurement over here. So a good way to do that is with some dividers. Let's just check it. All right, very good. Now, I can take this with my fixture that I made, and I take it to the mortising machine, and I can cut those mortises. Now, there's several ways you can do this. You could use a drill press and use a 1/4-inch Forstner bit and use it inside these lines, or you could use even something smaller than that, and then take your chisels and chisel out in between. That's a way you can do it. I'm going to go 1 inch deep. I'm going to set this for 1 inch deep and make those mortises, and then we'll be ready to push on. All right, I've used this little 1-inch block here to set my depth, and it's 1 inch from the point where it is sitting down on the line. And so 1 inch deeper than that, that's what we're going for. Okay, so let's start it up and see what we can do. Now we're going to go to the bench and clean it up. Okay, so I've got a 1/4-inch mortising chisel here. I can use it to chop the ends. A little bit of hand work, and we'll be able to clean it right up. Okay, I need to make this surface back here, the deck, it needs to be a nice curve. It needs to curve from this point right here to that point right there. And to do that, I'm going to drop down. I'm going to set a boundary for our curve. I'm going down 3/16 right here on the center line. And I want the curve to go through that point, and I want it to end up here and end up there. Now, if you notice my movement, you can use your body as a compass. So I call this Chucky the Compass. And let's see how good Chucky the Compass is today. All right, I'm going to rehearse a little bit. Now I'm rotating on my stool also. All right. Okay, now I'm going to use the grinder and sand down to that line. And that'll give us a nice little curve back here. Actually, I don't have to go all the way to the line, but I want it to be consistent with that line. So let's get started. Okay. Now, let's work on our back splat with all of its curves and see if we can fit it into our mortise here. This is very interesting. What we need to do now is we need to make a nice little smile over here and that thigh relief cut out, and another little smile over there. And then we need to round over. All right, so we need to identify the places for the smile and for the round over and for the little bit of a crown here. So first of all, I want to find a point that is about halfway between, this is the front of seat board 4, and so between here and there, the edge of seat board 4, I'm making a mark like 3/16 of an inch up from the bottom there. And now I want to swing an arc down like this. And I want it to go all the way to this line. So we're using, again, Chucky the compass. And I've already got a mark over here. And so Chucky the compass is not going to be available in your home to draw your arc. But whatever your name is, you can be a compass too. So just do what I did, draw an arc, and now we're going to make a 45-degree flat both places and round it over toward the front, and then we can crown it up from the bottom. This is big time sculpting here. All right, we've got our basic flat there, and now let's take it to the bench, and I think we're going to be able to work a little better there. It's a little cramped because this is a big tool that I've used for rocking chairs, full size, and this is such a small space, but we've done the basic roughing there. Hand tools will help. This is a great time to use a real heavy-duty, half-round rasp. Man, I tell you what, you can define this roundover with a good rasp. Look at that. It's looking better already. We've got a lot to do, but just take your time and enjoy it. Trying to get them to flow, and at the same time they need to reconcile. In other words, this side needs to be pretty much the same as that side. It's not going to be perfect, but because it's handmade, but this is the fun part of it. Use a power tool, and then in a hybrid kind of way, go to the hand tools, clean it up. This is fun to me. Hope it's fun to you. Be sure to work these corners real good, and don't leave a big square mass there. Look at the picture. See what you need to do. Pick up a tool, give it a try. If you don't get what you want, try a different tool, or push it, or use it a different way. That's how you learn to sculpt. And then use your eyes, use your touch, and just enjoy it. There are a lot of little details on the seat. We've got our mortises in now, and this has been a nice square reference, but we can get rid of that now because we've used it for our mortises. Now we've got a line across here that we can cut on, and remember when we marked out with the red line, this gives us something to mark off of to go from there to there. So we can take that to the bandsaw and we can cut it. And our seat is kind of coming together now. We've almost got the seat part finished. So let's go to the bandsaw, make a couple little cuts, and then we're going to march on with our interesting little backsplat. See if we can fit it right there.